Welcome to 542 Main. I'm Harry Gross, and today I'll be talking with Commissioner Julie Scales. Hello, Julie.
Hi, Harry. Good to see you back in City Hall.
Thanks. It's always good to come back and visit. Julie, I was going to talk a little bit about your background and what got you into service to the city of Dunedin in this particular capacity. What is your educational background and professional background?
Well, my professional background is I am a lawyer. I practiced law for about 24 years, both in the private sector and the public sector. And I got interested in running for the Dunedin City Commission because part of it was I've always been involved in whatever community I've been in. I grew up in a household where people were involved in their local community. I'm fortunate that I moved to Dunedin, which is a wonderful community, and there was an open seat on the commission, and I thought if I'm ever going to get involved at this level, then maybe I should give it a shot now, and that's how that happened.
Great. I remember prior to that you were involved in quite a few volunteer activities associated with the city of Dunedin. In fact, occasionally filling in as the moderator on a show similar to this.
Yeah.
And I was wondering now you say there was an open seat. You got a chance to see a lot of the things that was going on in Dunedin at that time. Was there a particular issue or item that made you decide to
I don't
make
recall
that
a burning issue at the time. It was there was a possibility to serve on the city in that capacity, and I was interested in doing it. So,
now I know this isn't they say it's not a full-time job. I've seen enough of the way the city commission works to know that it is really a full-time job. You're just paid for part-time work.
Yeah.
You have another profession outside of this, and I know you were an attorney. You also work for a foundation, I believe.
Yes, I'm executive director of the Pinellas Community Foundation, and I actually had my 10th anniversary last week. Has not felt like it's been that long, but and that's an organization that promotes philanthropy, and with the funds and assets that they have, we have various grants programs. I think you're familiar with the organization and your grants work that you do. So it's been a wonderful experience. You see a lot of good things. You don't always go to a job and see that every day, but you have the people who are charitable in their giving. It's a very good thing. And then you have the not-for-profit organizations who are pursuing a mission, filling a need in the community, and they are, I feel, by and large, not paid, for the work that they do and what they do for the community. So they're really dedicated people.
Great. It seems to me like that would be a very rewarding job, but probably sometimes a heartbreaking job too, because I don't know if you make the decisions, but you're involved in distributing or not distributing money to quite a few organizations that I'm sure all have a good story to tell.
Oh, absolutely. The resources are limited and the need is very big. So those decisions are actually ultimately made by my board, not by me, but I just facilitate and basically do the staffing on it. And I'm glad to be a scrivener for the board.
Well, so you serve people all day, and then when you're done, you come here and do it again. So that's great. Let's talk about the job of City Commission a little bit. What have you found most rewarding or liked best during your tenure on the City Commission? Hands
down, it's been meeting with the citizens and talking to the citizens and being able to help them out. I remember one of the very first questions I was at, it was from a condominium owner out on the Causeway Boulevard, and basically saying, couldn't the city change the hours of their trash pickup out here? It just seems like, I forget the particular hour, but it was an early hour. They were picking it up. It was before they happened to get up, and so they were, awakened by all this clatter and the noises that the trucks make and everything like that. And I said, well, I'll see what I can do, and mentioned it to the Public Works Director, and they actually adjusted the time for the pickup, and I will have to say that citizen was very, very surprised, and that's something that has always been great about working for the City of Dunedin is we've always had, top drawer staff and very responsive to citizens, and so that's something that's really makes it a pleasure to work with. And
I remember, and that is one of the neat things about Dunedin. I remember when I worked for the city, sometimes people would be surprised. They'd come from large cities in other parts of the country, and they would be surprised when I returned their telephone calls. So I can just imagine what a casual comment to a city commissioner, and then something gets changed almost right away because of it. So it's.
And fortunately, we're the size of our community, makes it really to have that kind of responsiveness to our citizens. I think, when you get on larger stages, government is more remote, and
Yeah.
I think it can be more frustrating at higher levels. So,
Yeah, you're all very accessible and very willing to listen and try to help when you can. What do you think has been the most challenging thing for you as a city commissioner?
I can't think of like the single most thing. I think that the challenging moments really are when there's an issue where there are two very strongly held views about what the right thing to do is, and that can make the decision-making process difficult. But at the end of the day, I feel that our citizens are electing us to, to do the right thing, and I think doing the right thing, largely involves doing what's the best for this community, and it may not be in one individual person's best interest or what they would want to do, but you've got to look at the big picture and see what's best for the general good.
I know in the past several years it seems like, with economic issues, Dunedin's budget, like many others, it just hasn't been going in the right direction, and it seems like government budgets are slow to catch up even with the
well, I'm glad you
economic
mentioned that,
upturn.
because that really was a very big challenge and a very difficult time with the economic meltdown, if you will, back in 2008, and then the legislature taking a series of actions that we just had to, lump it and deal with it, and it's we ended up laying off something like 65 to 70 people, and those are all people that you're not just dealing with that individual or that position or that line item on the budget. You're dealing with a whole family, and those are difficult decisions. And but sometimes you have to, you just simply have to work with what you have.
And at the same time, there's levels of service that by law you have to maintain, and other levels of service that people have come to expect. And I know the commission has worked really hard to try to keep those levels of service as close to optimal as possible.
Yeah, and there's no question that time after time our citizens have, told us the level of service that they wanted for the, particular services that we do deliver, and we're all very conscious of that and have been committed to that.
Yeah, and I mean, from what I've seen, you've, even in spite of economic issues, and you've made adjustments, and you've still managed to, you've still got good law enforcement, you still have good fire service, good public works, and I think you've even opened a park or two along the way, and even in spite of those times.
And well, and I'm glad you mentioned the parks too, because the two that have been open during that period were, of course, Weaver Park, and then what's now called the Dunedin Youth Guild Park, and both of those were acquired through unique partnerships where no city tax dollars were used in those acquisitions. And going forward, I think that that model of partnerships for pursuing the kind of city that our citizens said they want is something we really need to focus on. And I think, Harry, that last year the Commission approved a so-called Quality of Life Initiative, which is now part of our economic development plan. And I think that as we go forward, we really need to focus more on that element of the plan now that it's in there. And I think through partnerships, that's going to be very key in achieving the types of things we want to do. I was just at a meeting earlier with some developers, And one of them said that what they like about Dunedin, he referred to it as a destination for a lifestyle. Kind of like that phrase, you know, because I think that's very true. We have a very unique community. It offers a lot for everybody, or for most everybody. And people like the walkability of this community. They do like the parks, the open space, the green space, you know, the bicycling. We're, you know, just starting on an expansion of the bicycling trails here in Dunedin. Those are all things that really add up to a place that people want to live, a place that people want to work, and a place that people want to play. And I think that in time, in the long term, that's going to very much you know, play right into our economic development efforts.
Well, I think, you know, I think it was a bold step for the City Commission to recognize quality of life as a component of economic development and to make that investment. And I do have to note that whether I drive through downtown or if I drive out over the causeway, I don't see the vacant storefronts like you see in a lot of towns. And in fact, you know, the Frenchies is now on the causeway, and I think there's a billboard out on US 19 attesting to that fact. And you know, I drive through town on a Sunday afternoon, and there's a lot of people out walking around. So it's
in our you know, during very, very tough economic times, most of our downtown merchants, you know, have survived and actually thrived to a certain degree. And we have some, you know, quality shops and restaurants and stores, and I think that you know, like I say, going back to that phrase, and destination for a lifestyle, I think that that's what all that adds up to. So,
no, I think that's.
And you mentioned Frenchies. It's you know, obviously they've had some extremely successful restaurants in Clearwater for years, and the first time that they've done something outside of Clearwater, it's been in Dunedin, and it's not just the causeway, but also in partnership with another organization. They're going to have a restaurant up there at the entryway to downtown. So.
And they're a good corporate citizen too.
Yes.
I know that they support several charitable organizations, and you know, throw their support behind those types of activities. So,
they'll be a good citizen. I'm confident of that.
And, we'll be back with more 542 Main after this.
If a citywide emergency were to happen, how would you find out about proper procedures during a critical event? The City of Dunedin, which is dedicated to quality service, has contracted with Code Red to better inform our citizens in the event of an emergency. Code Red is an invaluable service that delivers a pre-recorded phone message from your city's Emergency Operations Center describing the situation to residents and businesses directly, or by leaving a message on an answering machine in the affected area. If you reside or own property within the incorporated limits of the City of Dunedin and would like to receive Code Red emergency messages, visit the city's website at dunedingov.com and click on the Emergency Services link on the left side of the home page. To stay informed in the event of a citywide emergency, sign up for the new Code Red notification system through the city's website, dunedingov.com. Get inside the fitness rooms at the Dunedin Community Center. You'll find a fully equipped workout area with Nautilus machines, cardio equipment, and free weights. There's also an exercise studio with a spring floor for jazzercise, dance, and martial arts classes. Come in and ask about a program designed for your fitness needs. Get inside the Dunedin Community Center.
Let's talk a little bit about current issues and priorities. The one, I was going to say the elephant in the room, but maybe we should say the giant bird in the room.
Is it blue?
Yeah, it's blue. The Blue Jays. A lot of discussion, a lot of press on the Blue Jays and whether or not they're seriously considering leaving Dunedin. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess when you get right down to the bottom of it, they're either going to stay or they're going to leave. And what they have indicated thus far very clearly, both in the media and most recently with a fairly long conversation with our Director of Parks and Recreation, is that they very much want a new stadium. There's an opportunity in South Florida to pursue that. They are pursuing it. They most recently signed a letter of intent, and so they have their processes to go with it. Certainly not a done deal, but they've made it clear that that's what they're interested in right now. Should that not work out and they come back to the city, that's you know, we'll just have to wait and see what they ask for there. The issue there, I think the challenge there is going to be that you know, we have a budget that we have to work within, and we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. Should they, the situation in South Florida work out for them, obviously we have some facilities, the Florida Auto Exchange Stadium, the Engelbert Complex. I feel that at that point, if they do in fact leave, then I think everything's on the table as to what we want to do with those facilities. Are there any long-range needs and interests of the city that may be better served by using it for those purposes? What they may be, I don't know. But rather than continuing to try to have a ball team here, it's one thing to have a major league team. It's, I think, when you start talking about the minor leagues or other things, that's another thing. I think everything's on the table, and we need to have that discussion and not, you know, wait several years to see if we can get another team. That's one option, and it may be that that's how we want to go, but I think everything should be discussed. You know, I think those are, I see that as a unique opportunity for this city, as to how best to use those properties.
And it is that is a good way to look at it. I mean, it's not something that you want to see happen, but it's you know, everything can present an opportunity as well as it can present a downside. I do know that you know, talking about economic development again, a spring training franchise is sort of an economic engine. I know the Department of Commerce has done studies since 1990 that seem to indicate that, and I believe the Chamber of Commerce did a study at one time that sort of mirrored the results that the Commerce Department came up with. So it's, you do have a few years to consider options. So I think, when is their contract up? I think it's 20.
In 17, and I
Okay.
think assuming that they do leave, and I certainly do think that that's not my preference, is that they leave. I hate to see the end of a decades-long relationship like that go. But they have indicated what their interest is, and we'll just have to wait and see, I guess, how that goes. But there, you know, there will be people that'll it will affect certain businesses and types of businesses. But I think if that's where we are, that we'll get through that.
And Dunedin has several assets, so it's not like you're just depending on one, you know, one thing to draw people to this area. What about the Gateway project? That got underway back when I was still working for the city, and it with the economic meltdown, as you put it, it sort of languished for a while. Is there anything new going on with that?
Well, we did finalize the deal, if you will, and they have been holding off on doing a lot of preparation work for, you know, getting started, waiting for you know, the deal to be closed. And they are now, you know, going forward with doing the work that they need to do in order to, you know, start putting a shovel in the ground. And we anticipate that probably by mid-year next year, you know, we'll start seeing some activity there. And we're very excited about it. Pizzuti Companies has been a great partner. That, you know, everyone knows we've had the worst recession that we had in this country in 75 years, and of course real estate was one of the hardest hit areas. over the last 5 years. And they've been very patient, and they have worked very well with the city. We had a vision for that property that they stuck with us on that. I know that there was at one point a thought of doing something a little bit different there, but the commission as a whole felt that that's a signature location, as you know, it should be a signature project, and they stayed with us on that. So my hat's off to Pizzuti on that. Looking forward to that project coming up out of the ground.
And I probably should remind, for people that don't know, the Gateway Project, of course, is that area on the east end of downtown, across from Meese Hospital, that it originally was going to be developed as, I think, a combination of residential and retail, and then it moved to retail. Is it still retail, or are they back? Is residential back on the table?
Yeah, what happened was there was originally, what they called mixed use, where there would be retail and office on the first floor, and then condominiums was the original proposal, up above. And when the economy went bad, that kind of scratched all those plans. Well, first of all, no one was looking to, move into the retail space. And so at one point they did say, well, we think what we could build here now at this particular time is an apartment project, 100% apartments. And nothing wrong with apartments. There's always a need for rental property. But for that particular location, I personally felt that that was not the kind of project we were looking for. And they, went back to the drawing board and came back with, what's proposed now, or what's going to happen now, which is the retail and business on the first level, and then apartments, rental units on top.
Okay.
So that was sort of the change in the.
Yeah. So that would be that would be, I could picture that being very nice. You'd have your storefronts and probably professional offices, and people could actually live downtown like they do over in this area behind City Hall. And for people that want to be in the middle of all the activities and would like to be able to walk to their special events, then that would be a pretty ideal location, I think. And I think that would be that's an exciting project. I mean, it's been a long time coming, and got waylaid through no fault of the cities or no fault of the developer. And I think it's a testimony to the city and the developer that you both hung in there with each other to get it back to this point. That sort of brings me to, I know over the years the city has done quite a few studies, master planning studies on various aspects. There was one that I think was done and then updated on the Causeway, and there was a corridor study, and I think there were a few going back to the visioning process even in the early 2000s. Do you have any thoughts on where any of those projects are right now? I know some of the studies have been done, and I was just wondering, are they underway, or what are the next steps?
Yeah, very much underway. And I'm glad you mentioned the visioning that we did back, while you were still here. And of course, that was right around the time of, the last bubble, if you will, in real estate. And I had a concern at that time that the city really needed to be prepared for, serious development. And how can you be prepared if you don't know what you want to be? And so I said, we need to have a vision to, kind of inform us on, the decisions that we're making. And that turned out, I thought, very well. And what came out of that was, what our community as a whole like about this community, and what they want to see maintained about this community is, the quaint coastal waterfront community that Dunedin is. And, what makes our community, that goes back to, the destination for a lifestyle issue. People like the ambiance of this community. They like what's available in terms of, cultural opportunities. We have organizations that, are telling us about our history. Always a good thing to know and a fun thing too. And of course, we have the grassroots organization that's the Dunedin Fine Arts Center, and the library, of course, is a cultural institution. You can really view our park system as, you know, another type of cultural institution. You know, access to nature, access to recreation, to play. That's what people like about this community. And in the visioning session, it was like that's, you know, what they want, and that has informed us and continues to inform us. Every time there's been an opportunity for our citizens to speak out and say what they want, they've been very consistent about what they like. We went through a survey back when we were working with the branding of the city, you know, same results. Anyone that's, you know, kind of proposed a diametrically opposed view has not been taken to very well. I guess is one way to put it, and it's sort of so. And I think that that's you know, a vision that continues to inform us. And one of the things that happened that led to these studies that you just mentioned was, you know, there was a local developer here who was planning a nice project on Douglas, and something came up where someone, you know, across the street from him or just a little bit down the street from him was, you know, wanting to have used their, you know, lot, you know, for boat storage. And, you know, so he said, like, you know, here I am, I'm trying to do this nice project. You know, I don't know what's going to be across the street from me. And, you know, I thought, well, that's true. There was, at the time, we had plans for really, you know, doing a lot of infrastructure work and, you know, beautification type work and, you know, on Douglas. And then it's sort of like, well, yeah, you kind of want to know what, maybe we should have more of a plan on, you know, what's going to be there. And what that led to really was, you know, our corridor studies. We identified the areas in the community, you know, Patricia Avenue, Douglas Avenue, you know, both South Douglas and North Douglas, Causeway Boulevard, you know, the water, you know, the marina area as places that we should focus on, have an idea of what we want there, amend codes if necessary, in order to let people know that that's the kind of development we want. And those things are all underway, and I think it's very exciting. And, you know, hopefully, you know, we will be prepared for the development that's proposed and that comes for those areas when it's, you know.
That points to and I know we've talked about it a little bit in other ways, but one of the characteristics of the City Commission that I've seen is when adversity presents itself, you tend to respond rather than react. And an example of that, and you touched on it as far as the visioning session and what people want their city to look like. When the economic downturn happened and the real estate market was next to nothing, rather than, you know, gnash your teeth and, you know, cry woe is me, you use that as an opportunity to revamp your building codes. It's like, okay, we don't have a bunch of big projects in the works right now that we have to deal with permitting and develop, you know, site plan development and all of those things. You almost took it as a little bit of breathing room and took that opportunity to revamp your building codes to start implementing some of those things that the visioning process pointed out several years ago. And I've seen that in a couple of instances that, that the way that you all react to situations that might not elicit as positive a response. You know, I use the word response instead of react in other organizations, and it's and I think the end result is why people want to move here. Let's talk about the future briefly. If you could pick one thing, whether it was a program, a project, or an initiative that is underway right now or about to become underway, and that you would like to see either brought to completion or so far along that you knew it was going to be done while you're a member of the City Commission, what would that be?
Well, one thing I've been very interested in, and I've talked to the city manager and to our director of planning and development about from time to time, is, you know, we have a lot to build on. I look back, and Harry, and I think at critical times in the city's history, you the commission, say back in the 70s for sure, they stepped forward as they responded to the development that was occurring back at that time with let's make sure that there are ample opportunities for recreational for our children. And one of the partnerships, I think an example of the partnership there that continues to this day is the one with the Dunedin Youth Guild, which is basically formed to help the city with its, at that time, almost non-existent recreation program, but very strong partnership, long-standing partnership. Let's make sure that there's open space and access to nature. The decision to acquire the 80 acres that's now Hammock Park, in which we've added to, so it's not 90 acres now. And I think always being alert to those opportunities to build on what the commissions behind us have saw as important, made very good decisions, I think. One of the things is as we, here we are in the 21st century, our downtown, I think very near future we'll be seeing some significant development going on, and I think that there will be increased density in the downtown, and I think we need to look for how we can maintain open space and green space as an aesthetic feature of the community. Another thing is how can overlooked spaces be used to again continue the ambiance that we like. I was just over at the Orange Crate, what used to be called the Boxcar there next to the Historical Society, and they have just done a terrific job, both with kind of getting that interior into shape and everything like that, but some really nice things outside that invite people to sit and gather and things like that. And that use of space that otherwise typically goes overlooked, and I think is something that we should start looking at. And I think that that's to me is something that I think is important. I think it's going to be important for the look of our city and the ambiance in our city. Maintain looking at open space and green space, not just as so many acres of land where you can have ball fields and playgrounds, but the bicycle trails that we're talking about. I think that we can do some really interesting things with some of the space that's available right now in terms of right-of-ways and things like that. Going forward as we have stormwater projects and improvements, what opportunities are there for making, if you're going to have a stormwater project, a utility project, something that's a very practical thing. But maybe there's an opportunity for turning it into that more of a inviting green space too. That would require, something of a master plan, I guess, but we need to, have the idea of what we want. I think those are things that are important to me at this point. I think that we've accomplished a lot recently. There's always a lot to do, but I think building on and continuing to make this a very desirable city is really what my focus and interest is.
That's great. Whenever I do one of these programs, I always leave it feeling that Dunedin is in really good hands and a good future ahead for the city. Julie, it's been a real pleasure talking with you. And we've been talking with Commissioner Julie Scales. I hope you found this program informative as I have. And for 542 Main, I'm Harry Gross.